most important thing to remember when doing your job, just in
Uh,
general?
Attention to detail. Detail is everything. Details matter. You have to, one of the things that, just in general, is I come home every day, and I in a lab or sit at a desk, doing, working all day. I'm not, doing a lot of physical activity, but you come home oftentimes very tired because you have to concentrate so hard because mistakes, this is an industry where mistakes can be, theoretically, they can be fatal. Not
Yeah,
not to me per se, but
to someone
you know,
else.
yeah, someone's waiting. Drugs. If you make a mistake, drugs may not get out the door,
Yeah.
and people may not get their medicine or their treatments on time, and delays can cost lives, and also increase, suffering and whatnot. So you have to concentrate everything you do. You have to pay attention and focus so much all day long, it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot of concentration to do. It's not easy. You can't, like, oh well, I kind of blew that. Just, well, that'd be fine. Move on.
Yeah.
No, there are. You really have to think about what you're doing and the impact of your focus or lack thereof.
Hmm. All right. How do you see your job changing or evolving over the current years? Like, you know, new drugs are going to be produced. Are you going to start targeting different diseases, different illnesses, sort of deal?
Some, yeah. Probably there has been, one of the bigger changes, in technology has been, they always, companies are always looking for, more throughput. Meaning, how can if I make 100 batches of a product A in this facility, how can I make 120
Yeah.
without necessarily increasing, the number of people, or, building more? It's like, how can we, squeeze more production out of this? And so, um, we're always looking for technology, or novel. I guess what's the term that everybody likes to use now? Disruptive technology, right? We're looking at things like, what they call, like, single-use systems, Trey. So things like, instead of, growing up, large batches of cells in these stainless steel, tanks that are like 15,000 liters
Hmm.
large. But when you do that and you make product A in that, when you're done with product A and you want to make product B, you have to go through a tremendous amount of cleaning and validation and testing to show that you don't have any contamination or leftover product A that might get into product B
Hmm.
and contaminate that. So that takes a lot of time to do that. So traditional old facilities with steel piping and a lot of fixed metal, equipment, that slows things down. You can only go so fast. Now, a lot of single-use technologies now, instead of a tank like that, you can get a large, bag, essentially. It's a large kind of plastic bag that's single use. It's been sterilized, and you can put your components in there and grow up your cells and nutrients. And when you harvested it, you throw it away,
Yeah.
and you can immediately go in with another disposable bioreactor, put it in the same place, and go immediately. And now you've saved all this time, and now you can get throughput. So, that's probably what some of the changes that we're really starting to see now.
Yeah.
The the upside to that is you can increase throughput, and you can get more, efficiency out of a facility without building
Yeah.
and, more, and getting a higher cost. The downside to that is, a couple of things. Downside is that, there's more waste,
Hmm.
right? Because now you're throwing away in plastics. They can, some of them can be recycled, but, medical waste is a touchy
Yeah.
subject. And the other thing too is, like, sometimes, these plastic. One of my specialties is in a field called leachables and extractables. And what happens when you put things in plastic? Well, different chemical compounds that were used to, process the plastics will leach into, your product and get carried forward. And you have to determine, well, how much, what compounds, how much of those compounds, and then what is the potential toxicity to the patient if these compounds get into the actual medicine, the dosing. So it kind of that's a little more tricky as opposed to stainless steel or glass or what have you, where there's virtually no compounds that can leach out to the product stream.
Okay. Um, I guess. Um, so what? Not necessarily for you alone, but it can also just be your personal experience. What was your like education process for the job? Like schools, your degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, I went to four-year college,
Hmm.
got my undergraduate degree there. I started actually working. I had to work my way through school. I didn't have any scholarships, and my parents couldn't afford to pay. So I worked my way through, but I actually started working in the field technically while I was still an undergraduate. One of the jobs I had a couple of jobs. One of the jobs I had was working for the chemistry and biotechnology department at my Humboldt State University, the school I went to. Started, working with the polyacrylamide gels and the chromatography columns, and some protein synthesis and synthesizers and solvents. So that actually got me more interested. It was nice to actually start, even though I didn't have my bachelor's degree yet, but I was starting to apply some of the things that I was learning in a practical sense,
Yeah.
and to get this sense of getting hands on, and like at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I did something. This I'm putting into practice what I'm learning. Then when I graduated my bachelor's degree, I went into industry.
Hmm.
Worked for a couple of years, and then went to graduate school at Cal Berkeley. Got some more additional education there. But if I'm honest, I really believe that the most learning I've done has been from while I've been on the job. You can call it OJT, on the job training. I've been extremely fortunate. I've had some brilliant people in my life that I've worked with, good mentors, good teachers, especially early on. I work with some really remarkable people, PhDs and non-PhDs, that were willing to teach and be patient with me and learn quite a bit. So, I found work to be very much like school. For the most part, there's always exceptions, but you get out of it what you put into it. If you
Yeah.
work hard, you learn, you try to do the best job you can. You're going to get quite a bit out of it, and opportunities will come. But you also have to be. I don't want this to sound bad, but you have to be opportunistic too.
Yeah.
Don't. This may answer a future question, or maybe a little bit off topic. But one of the things too that I tell younger folks when they come in is you have to be the architect of your own career. Do not, if you're waiting for other people to notice how wonderful you are and what a great job you're doing and give you all these opportunities, you're in for a very rude awakening. You have to not toot your own horn, so to speak, but you have to be able to look for opportunities, talk to people, engage. Go talk to a manager in another group of the chemistry department or the QC department or the synthesis department or the cell culture department, just in my area, and talk to them and network. Hey, I'm interested in this. Maybe, and then but as I mentioned earlier, be flexible. Maybe you might have to do some volunteer work. Maybe you may have to do some job shadowing with another person in another department
Yeah.
to learn something and get another opportunity.
So really make sure you're showing initiative when you're starting.
Absolutely. You really have to you really have to be, like I said, show initiative, show drive. Not be careful that you're not stepping on people's toes. You don't want to leave a string of bodies. Some people have done that,
Yeah.
and that never works out well. But at the same time, be willing to learn, be humble, but also show initiative and look for the opportunities and go after them. Again, if you're just being passive and waiting, thinking that your work is going to be noticed by everybody and speak for itself,
Hmm.
unfortunately, that's not the way it really works.
All right. I've got one more question.
Sure.
Right. Question wise, that's all I got.
Cool, wonderful. Is there anything else just in general you wanted to talk about, or is that pretty much wrap it
Um,
up for you?
One that's not really gonna make it onto the recording, because this is
Mm-hmm.
gonna make